Ծածկել, բայց իրականությունը սդել։ Թուրքիո մեջ այս դժվար է։ Անշուշտ մեծամասնությունը թուրքական ժողովրդին բնավ քաղաքապարտ չունին, որովհետև չեն սորված լուրջ չունին, բամը չեն գիտեն, իրենք միայն սորված են, որ հայերը մեզի իսպաննեցին, որ առաջին բادرազմին ընթացքին բادرազմ եղավ եւ թուրքերը մերձվեցան, ապստամբեցին հայերին եւ իրենց վնասեցին.
So the Turks who were present on April 24th at the symposium, at the conference, what is their background? How are they learning about what happened in 1915?
I should say there was a conference. We did organize an academic conference, but the main event that we organized was a public commemoration. So it wasn't a conference, it was a public commemoration. I don't want to call it a demonstration because we're careful not to use that word, but it was a public event. So just as in the streets of Los Angeles, Armenians assembled, and I don't think you'd call that a conference,
no.
Turks and Armenians and people, the good citizens of Turkey, assembled near the main central square of Istanbul, right near Taksim Square, where all public demonstrations take place to remember the Armenian genocide and to demand that the Turkish government recognize the genocide.
Approximately how many people were there?
I would say it was less than 10,000. Unfortunately,
that's a number.
It is a number.
It's a number.
It's significant
in Turkey,
because several years ago the commemorations would take place in Taksim Square itself, but because of the Gezi Park demonstrations last year, the government has shut down Taksim Square as a place for any demonstrations. And so we were moved to Istiklal Street, which is the main public thoroughfare leading to Taksim. That's where we were assembled, so it was a much longer line. And if you go on the internet, if you go to our website, ArmenianProject2015.org, or you just Google Istanbul Armenian Genocide Commemoration, you can see the pictures of the thousands and thousands of people who had assembled in Turkey. And just to give you a sign, virtually every Turkish newspaper wrote about the Armenian genocide in the centennial and wrote about the commemoration events. One of the leading Turkish newspapers, which is really government-leaning, I would say. It's not a government newspaper, but it's a government-leaning newspaper. The cover of the newspaper were the words "Never Again." If that's not an advance in Turkish civil society's ability and willingness to wrestle with this issue, then I don't know what is. And as Armenians, I think we have to stop shutting out Turkey and pretending it's not there and that we have nothing to do with it, because I feel like Armenians have really ripped themselves out and sort of forgotten that this is lands they belong to for thousands and thousands of years, and figure out how to reconnect with the good people of Turkey, with the good citizens of Turkey, about how to push our cause forward, because it's not just about the genocide. We have a lot of property in Turkey. We have hundreds of churches, we have hundreds of monuments, the architecture, the art, the music, the literature. We have a share of all of that, and there's no reason why we should give it all up.
So what would you recommend our audience do, our Armenian audience do? What would be our sort of next steps for 2015, 2016?
Well, I think as an organization, Project 2015 is just trying to figure that out, since we are a volunteer organization, and this really taxed our own individual resources in terms of trying to assemble this. I know there's tremendous momentum to keep up the connections with Turkish civil society. As a primary matter for Armenians, particularly Armenians whose families came from the Ottoman Empire and the Armenian provinces of Turkey, I would say go visit.
That's a good concrete step.
Yeah. Go visit, go connect with, number one, the Armenian community of Istanbul. Armenians have virtually no ties. They are not an integrated part of the Armenian diaspora, and they are part of the Armenian diaspora. If Armenia is meant to be the Armenian homeland now, then the people of Istanbul are part of the Armenian diaspora, and they should be more integrated. And they are having a difficult time maintaining their schools, maintaining their churches, keeping the community engaged, all of the things that Armenian diasporas deal with everywhere. In parts of eastern Turkey, in Diyarbakir, for example, which of course used to be called Dikranagert, there is a very progressive Kurdish political community there that has led the efforts to restore the Armenian church there. Sup Giragos Church, of course, that's not the only church. And if you haven't been there, you should go and travel and see this beautifully renovated church and reestablish our ties and our connection to people who want that. They actually want to reconnect, and they feel loss for what's happened.
We have a lot of discussion, like we had one recently, maybe a week ago. Օրինակ մարդ կա, որ they put a ban, ասում եմ, ես չեմ գնա այդ երկրի համար մի ցենտ չեմ ծախսի, որպեսզի իրենց տաքսի համակարգի մեջ չմասնակցեմ, ասենք ես իրենց туриզմը չեմ զարգացնի unless Armenian issue is resolved. Բայց ձեր կարծիքը մյուս կողմն է, որ we take ownership. These are our ancestors, these are our lands, and this is our history. It's painful, but we have to be there. Հետաքրքիր, հիմա դուք ձեր զավակներ ունեք, ասենք մյուս սերունդին, what is your message to your own children? Like, you educate them, you teach them where you come from. Your parents, your ancestry is from Diyarbakir, your grandfather, So what is your message to this even younger generation than you?
Well, I took my children with me to Turkey for the commemoration. In fact, we were multi-generational because my mother also came, and I was very proud of her, 80 years old, to be traveling all the way from Los Angeles to put her feet on the ground and bid farewell to her family and her father's family and her grandparents. So I took my children to Dikranagerd, and I took them to Sup Giragos Church, which is where my grandfather had been baptized, and I said, this is yours. You own it. And I took them to Ahtamar and to Van, and I wanted them to see the views and to know where their roots are from and where they come from, and that they belong to this land as much as they belong to the land of the United States. My daughter went back on her own last year and worked in an Armenian orphanage in Istanbul, in Kanala Island. And that was an opportunity for her to give back to Armenian disadvantaged children, many of whom, by the way, come from Armenia and Syria and are in Istanbul, because my grandfather had been in an orphanage and other people had taken care of him. So I felt very proud that she wanted to make that contribution.
Are we talking about the same orphanage?
No. My grandfather was in an orphanage in Lebanon. This is an orphanage, but I don't think most of the children there are actually orphans. They call it an orphanage. I think most of them there are a lot of refugee children, disadvantaged children who are there. And you know, it's the best I could do, and I think they definitely feel an understanding of what's at stake and why this matters, and I think it's also important for my children to understand that this isn't just about being Armenian. This is about being a human being.
Exactly.
And that this is an injustice that happened to Armenians, but there are many injustices out there, and because they feel it as Armenians, they should have an understanding and a commitment to helping the injustices of other people too.
Interesting. And Project 2015 is not connected to your job, it's separate?
No, it has nothing to do with mine. Yes.
Because related to your job, because you have access to Middle East, what's your opinion about Armenians? Because we learn that what's happening in Syria, in Halep, and it's devastating what we see.
It's like highly Armenian populated
Exactly.
country.
So when you are in your job, are you still Armenian or you are international? Like, what is your approach?
I think my approach is I'm a human being, and that's my job. I mean, however sizable the Armenian community of Syria is, it's tiny. It's a drop in the bucket. It's, less than 5%, and I think from the perspective in which I work, the vast majority of victims in Syria are Arabs. So as much as I worry, the reality is that Armenians have been luckier than most Syrians, than most Arabs, because they've had the resources to flee, and they've had the resources not to starve, not to die, and in fact, the numbers of Armenians killed has very fortunately been small. That being said, of course, it's devastating devastating what's happened to the Armenian community there, including the recent attack, bombardment of the 40 Martyrs Church, which is in fact where I was baptized. And so, I feel very much what the people in Syria are going through and what it means, this devastation and the crisis in the region.
Մենք պետք է շատ կարճ դադար վերցնենք, քանի որ մի քանի գովազդներ կան պետք է դիտել, գովազդներից անմիջապես հետո կվերադառնանք մեր այսօրվա ծրագրին։
As a volunteer coach, I find it really rewarding to help these kids in coaching and practice and games when the time comes. It's really, really fun to see how driven they are and help them get their skills developed, and when their game time comes around, how confident they are. You see just the reward you get in their faces. So that's what makes me do what I do.
Through the network of AGBU Sports, I've learned that I'm a part of something bigger and greater than just a game. We're all connected through common interests and our pride and heritage.
My son really enjoys being in the Saturday program for the athletics department at AGBU, and he's able to spend some time getting some good physical activity, spending some time with his friends, and we're able to come down and watch him during the soccer program every Saturday, so he really enjoys it.
Some of the best times I've ever had was traveling with my team to the AGBU World Games. Not only did we get to represent our AGBU city, we got to meet fellow Armenians from all over the world.
I enrolled my children in the AGBU sports program 5 years ago, and I can't explain the change that they've had over the years. They have great physical activity, they've got a lot of discipline in their life, and they've developed a great friendship with fellow Armenians.
I loved watching basketball on TV, but I never thought I'd be good playing it myself. So what I did is I joined my AGBU basketball team. The coaches taught me how to play the game. I gained confidence and I also worked really hard. And now I score points and make assists during games.
Although we love playing the game, it doesn't matter whether we win or lose. The important part is we love spending time with our teammates and our sister cities.
Դիտեցինք գովազդները, վերադարձանք մենք մեր ծրագրին, որը շատ հետաքրքիր ծրագիր է այսօր։ Մեր այսօրվա հյուրն է Նելի Յակոբյան եւ Սարա Լի Ուիթսոն, որ Նյու Յորքից մինչեւ այստեղ եկել է եւ առիթը չուզեցինք բաց թողնել, եւ շնորհակալություն շատ, որ ոչ չասեցիք եւ եկաք այս ծրագրին մասնակցելու համար, Լուսինե Նալբանդյան, եւ շարունակենք մեր այսօրվա նյութը, որը Միջին արևելյան եւ հյուսիսային աֆրիկյան երկրներում մարդկային իրավունքների պաշտպանման մասին է եւ Սարա Լի Ուիթսոնը աշխատում է ճիշտ այդ ուղղությամբ, փորձում է այս բոլորը անել, իհարկե ոչ մենակ, մի խումբ non-profit organization են, զբաղվում են այս հարցով եւ Երանի այսպիսի մարդիկ շատ լինեին եւ շատ ավելի խաղաղ կլիներ, շատ ավելի լավ տեղ կանգնած կլինեինք։ Իհարկե սկզբի մասում, որը վստահ եմ շատ-շատերի համար շատ հետաքրքիր էր, բայց բաց թողեցիք նրանք, ովքեր մեզ հետ չեն եւ հիմա միացան, մենք խոսեցինք այն մասին, որ ինչպես Միս Ուիթսոնը գնացել էր Իստանբուլ մասնակցելու համար ապրիլ 24-ի այս commemorating event-ներին եւ այս event-ները, միջոցառումները արդեն 7 տարի է ինչ տեղի են ունենում։ Հadoop project-ը, որի անունն է 2015 թվականի project-ն է, որին անձամբ մի քանի տարիներ է ինչ ինքը ներկա է եւ դեռ ավելի հետաքրքիր նա գնացել էր իր երեխաների հետ միասին, իր մոր հետ միասին, այսինքն 4 generation, 4 սերունդ
4 չէ 3
մայրը ինքը երեխան է 3 սերունդ sorry 3 սերունդ գնացել էին ուրեմն տեսնելու համար մեր պատմական տարածքները շարունակենք Նելի
Given that AGBU Hye Geen is a women's organization, can you tell us about some of the women's issues you've seen in your work?
Well, the status of women and women's rights are probably the worst in the world in the Middle East and North Africa. Virtually every country in the Middle East and North Africa, and I include in that even Israel and Lebanon that have a sort of a reputation of being more progressive, have in place laws that discriminate and harm women and girls based on their gender. And they do so because of religious justification. Obviously, every country in the region has a religious law system for what they call personal matters. Personal status. So anything having to do with family, for example, marriage, divorce, child custody, but also inheritance, also court proceedings, testifying in court, are determined by your religious status. And so, for example, in a place like Lebanon, where it's just multi-confessional and you have numerous religions and sects, you literally have courts that have religious leaders for each sect. If you're Greek Orthodox, a Greek Orthodox priest adjudicates your personal affairs. If you're Armenian, Armenian. If you're Sunni, Sunni. If you're Shia, Shia, and so forth.